Hey everybody, it is Fearless Challenge Day 5. You've made it through the week. We've been kicking fear solidly in the ass all week, and I am so happy to have had you with me. I'm so psyched to be a part of this journey. People have been emailing me all week with questions and things that they've been accomplishing for themselves, and I know that this is a challenge that really got you to think, and I'm so proud of that, and I'm so proud of everybody who took chances, who spoke up, who private messaged me, who emailed me to let me know that they're making a commitment to fearing less. I couldn't be happier with how well this has gone for you guys, and I'm so proud of all of you. And I was trying to think about how I wanted to wrap this up, right? Because we've done a lot of work, we've covered a lot of things, and I know that you can rely on me for all of the tips, tools, and strategies around these things. But I also know that sometimes the tools, the tips, and the strategies, they simply aren't enough, right? Because you already, on some level, you probably already know what you need to do. It's the fear that's stopping you from doing it. So me giving you tips, tools, and strategies can be helpful and can give you direction, but sometimes you already know what you're supposed to be doing and you're still stuck anyway. And I was thinking about how do I help you overcome that? How do I get you to the other side of that? Because you ultimately have to want your goal or your dream more than you're afraid of it. And you have to feel the fear and do it anyway. That's what it always comes down to. And I can break it down. I can help you understand it. But I have to get you willing to move through the fear, to do the work even though you're scared. And the only way that, in all honesty, that I know how to do that is to tell you how I did it myself and to share my own story and my own journey with you in the hopes that it'll help you tune into your story, your experience, and your personal why. Because here's the thing, the tips, the tools, the strategies, and the insights that I gave you this week feel really good to learn at first, right? Like you get yourself all pumped up. You feel totally ready and capable of taking action and going at it. And then you're about to take a step, you're about to reach outside your comfort zone, and that fear grabs you, and suddenly you want to stop. And the reality is you're going to need a thought, a story, something that inspires you and motivates you to push through that scary moment. People love to share here on Facebook all of the Pinterest quotes and the mantras and the motivational sayings. And those of you who are in my community know that I have a rule about that it's fine to be inspired and it's fine to be motivated, but you can only pin it if you mean it. You can't just simply like a post or like a quote and then tell yourself that you're a positive person because you've liked a positive thought. It's about taking the positive thought and turning it into positive action. And that, like in those moments of terrifying fear, when you want to run away, when you want to hide, when you want to make yourself small again, you're going to need to remember whether it's a theme song, a quote, a theme story, your own story, something that you can tune into as your automatic to get from where you are to where you want to go. So I thought the best way I could do that for you would be to take a huge chance and model it for you and do it for myself. So those of you who know me for a while probably know bits and pieces of my story. Some of you are just getting to know me through this challenge, and you're probably going to want to hold on to your seat because you're probably about to learn things about me that you weren't expecting or didn't know were coming your way. It's not really an easy story to tell. I have my good cup of coffee here in case I need a little bit of motivation on the side, and I even have some tissues on standby in case I need those too. But I just wanted to jump in and tell you about how it all began for me, because I am sitting here today at the end of this challenge, committed and passionate about building a life that helps people change their own lives, that helps people choose happiness, that helps people say hell yes to their own life, that people stop settling and they start taking chances. But I wasn't always that way. I think that if I'm really honest, I wasn't always that way. I knew those things, I believed those things a little bit, but I don't think I lived them into action. And so I want to take you back a couple of decades, because I have some years on me, to when I was starting out in my clinical social work career. I was working at a residential treatment center for troubled adolescent girls. And I was really good at that job. I was committed. On my best days, it's fair to say I was obsessed with that job. I liked it that much. I worked really hard for the company. I entered there on day one, kind of just 6 weeks after getting my master's degree, telling people I wanted to run a program someday, that I wanted to be the one in charge someday, but that I knew I needed to earn the skills and the experience necessary to be able to do that to the best of my ability. And for close to a decade, actually it'd probably be 8 years, because the last 2 years I was actually doing the job. But for 8 years, I just was solely focused on getting that job, on working my way up to the ladder. I didn't have much of a life. I was pretty obsessed with work. I don't think I'd say I was unhappy. I liked kind of being obsessed about work. I was proud of it, but I didn't have much of a life, and I knew that. And then I met my husband, and his name is Damon. And I didn't know he was going to be my husband someday. But at the time, we just started dating. And I have to tell you, I was Miss Independent, right? Like, I had my shit together. I'd been single for a while. I was career focused. And he got the message loud and clear. My career came first. This is what I wanted for myself. I'd worked so hard. I'd already been, put in so many time, so many hours and months and promotions and steps along the way that nothing was going to get in the way. And my schedule really challenged us. I was on call one night a week on the weekdays. I had one weekend call a month, in addition to the fact that I always had something coming up that made me have to stay late or go in early. And it was really a job that took a lot of my focus. At the same time, he was an engineer for the Gillette Razor Company. So he had been with them probably for as long as I had been at my job. And he had decided for himself that he wanted to become a doctor. And he wanted a second career as a medical professional. He had always known that he wanted to do that, but when he was 18, he couldn't get the funds together for medical school and all of that at the time. So he had set a goal for himself to become an engineer, to earn the money necessary to become a doctor, to save it, and then he'd go to medical school. So that was his plan. And together we were pretty career driven. He was going to night school classes. I was working my job. And then we spent weekends kind of literally chasing waterfalls. We live in Massachusetts, and we just every weekend we'd find a new waterfall that was listed, and we'd go find it, drive to it, hike it, and see it, and had a lot of kind of little road adventures. And it was in 2005 on a Monday, I got promoted to my dream job. I had finally put in my time, put in the hours, done the work, and I got promoted to program director. That Friday, I was sitting in my office it was a night shift. I was starting to wrap things up. I was actually in the process, I remember this so clearly, I was in the process of promoting other people and giving them their new jobs and letting them know that they had earned their next step too, when I got a phone call that my husband, I was dating him at the time, so my boyfriend had been in an awful accident. He'd been on his way to work. He was in the crosswalk with the right-of-way that morning when he was struck by a bus. And he was caught under the bus and rendered paralyzed, probably immediately, but we didn't know immediately. But it was a really bad accident. And everything just changed. In an instant, our lives were just different. And the way we had planned things and thought about things and how we thought the world was going to go for us next just got turned upside down. I had suddenly had this new job now. I was the program director, the thing I'd worked so hard for, right at the moment that my boyfriend needed me the most and needed my time and my attention and my energy. And honestly, guys, it was an impossible situation, but I don't even remember having time to think about it being impossible. You just kind of do it when those things happen. And I remember it was about a week after we found out that he wasn't going to walk again, that he was a paraplegic. He was going to be paralyzed from the waist down permanently, and he never walk again. So he was still recovering from the surgery and from his accident. And I don't think he was in the ICU anymore. He might have finally been out of critical care, but he hadn't yet entered rehab. And somebody was visiting him. And I guess the person ended up asking what we were all quietly thinking, right? The person asked him, well, are you still going to become a doctor? And honestly, I wanted to slap that person across the face. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw her out of the room. I just wanted to fight her. That's like, when I tell you about it, that's the first thought that comes to mind, is how angry I was. And at the audacity to ask the question. And it just, like, in an instant, just filled me with so much rage, until I looked over at him, and he's in his bed, and he just answered the question really simply, yes. Yes, I'm still going to become a doctor. And honestly, I fell in love with him in a way that I hadn't even known was possible in that moment. That he was so centered and so sure, after losing so much, and yet not even knowing what he had lost. He was still in the hospital, and you don't figure out what you lose after an accident like that until you're trying to live your life in this new way. When you're in the hospital, people are still taking care of you, and people are still tending to you, and you don't really even know what's happening next. But he just quietly, very self-assuredly knew that regardless of his accident, regardless of needing a wheelchair, he was going to become a doctor. And he did. He took a year to do rehab. And he had to stop taking the night classes. He had just finished his training to become an EMT, and obviously he wasn't going to be able to do that anymore. But Gillette took really good care of him, and he was able to work. He took a year to do all of the various rehabs and to learn how to move through the world in a wheelchair. And then he went back to school and continued his the post-baccalaureate training. He didn't have his undergrad degree in medical school, so before he could start medical school, he had to take some post-baccalaureate classes before he got into medical school, and he just started taking those classes at night a year after he got hurt. And then in 2008, he started medical school. In 2012, he graduated and became a doctor, and this year he's going to be finishing his fellowship, and he's going to become a doctor specializing in working with people in spinal cord injuries. It's really incredible, and it's probably like the Lifetime story movie of the week, right? That everybody wants to clap their hands around and be inspired by. But I also want to tell you that it was effing hard, and it was gut-wrenching, and it wasn't easy. And stories like that sound so cliche, and they sound so easy. And those of us who have lived it know that it isn't easy. Because suddenly, like, I was caring for him, and I was responsible for caregiving. I wasn't even 30 at the time, on a level that I couldn't have even comprehended. And I had to decide, honestly, whether or not I was willing to make it be my life, and whether or not that was a relationship I still wanted. And he wanted his life. It was so clear. He was choosing to go to medical school. So, why would I back out of that? And why would I back out of that vision? But at the same time, I was a clinical social worker running a program, a very new program that was needing a lot of me. And suddenly this job that I had been obsessed with and defined myself by and relied on for my self-identity was getting in the way, in a way that I had never imagined or never anticipated. It suddenly, I was taking care of people at work. I was going home and taking care of him. And honestly, there was a time when he had his own apartment at the time, and we weren't technically living together, even though I was spending a lot of time with him. I had my own apartment. I remember these days where I would call out of work and let him think I was at work so I could take a mental health day. And I was burning the candle at both ends. And suddenly this dream that I wanted, that I had put all of this time for, was tiring me out, was making me unhappy, and I wasn't sure I wanted it anymore. But after 10 years, I couldn't even think of how I would define myself otherwise. It was all I had ever planned on. I told so many people in that job that I was going to be a lifer, that I was like, come 2017 at the time, I imagined I'd still be there running the joint by then, probably. It never occurred to me that I was going to have to choose, or that I was going to have to make a change. And the reality is for the life you want, to know what you're capable of, to make decisions, you have to take a chance. You have to get really clear and be honest with yourself when the things that you said you used to want, you find not working anymore. When you sort of define yourself one way, but life hits you a sucker punch and suddenly your way doesn't make sense, you have to find a new way. The people who don't end up stuck, victims in their own lives, and nothing ever changes. The only way you push through that really is if you take a chance. And I remember kind of having this moment on a Sunday night of just sobbing, thinking like, I can't go to work tomorrow, and I need to make a change, where I just sort of decided, like, I have a clinical social work degree. I'm going to open up a private practice. Like, I don't know what the hell I want to do next, but it'll allow me to set my own schedule. I can see people as often or as little as I want. I'll take better care of my boyfriend, and I'll figure everything out later. I didn't know what I was going to do next, guys. I didn't know what my next step was going to be, and I was still managing him and his adjustment to his injury, and I just knew that I needed room to breathe, so I made a movement and I started a new business. And those of you who are watching this or in the entrepreneurial space with me know that usually new businesses take all of this time and obsessional thinking and planning and organizing, and the reality is we don't have that kind of time sometimes. And half the time, the reason why we're doing that, and the things we've talked about this week, we create those reasons and things to think about because we're so effing scared to do something else, that like it takes life to sucker punch us in the gut to make a move or to make a switch. And the reason why I'm telling you this and sharing such a personal story with you is I don't want you to wait for life's sucker punch. I don't want you to wait until cancer hits your family, till something awful happens, till you lose someone, to figure out and really realize for yourself that, honest to God, we've only got one life to live. And it really is up to us to choose it. And it's on us to choose our own happiness. And we can either lay down and play dead, or we can get up and rise. And that is always going to be our choice. And I can tell you, my husband and I have been scared shitless over the years. We have shown up at restaurants that are not handicap accessible. We've gone into hotel rooms that don't have the right kind of bathroom or shower for him. We've hit sidewalks that we can't get him up. Just last month or 2 months ago or something, we got stuck in the snow trying to see a friend's event. Like, shit happens, and it gets hard, and it's easy to think about playing small, to just hide in our apartment, to just like look back on waterfall chasing days as memories, and to not want anything else because it's easier and it's safer. And I can't tell you that this fear conquering fear is easy. Like, it's not, but it's necessary, and it's so worth it. Because I can't imagine what my life would be like if I still felt trapped by my job, or trapped by a series of bad decisions, or if I just got so scared of the wheelchair that I ran away from the relationship. I can't imagine how, if I hadn't stepped into this scariness, what my life would be like. So much of that moment in his hospital room of him saying yes has become the foundation of who I am and how I define myself, and why I'm here on effing Facebook Live talking to you guys about this. 6 months ago, I didn't think I'd ever get on live, but I care this much, and this is this crucial for your happiness, to get you over the hump of your obstacles You need to know that it's possible. And you also need to know that when you come at me with your time excuses and your money excuses and but so and so won't support me excuses, this is why I call bullshit. Because in my own life, we have faced obstacles even bigger than that. We just weren't given a choice about it. And that's the thing that you guys have to recognize is so many of the obstacles you're creating, you're choosing to create for yourself. You only get to the other side of it by recognizing that hell no, that's not going to be the end of my story. I'm going to figure this shit out. I don't know how, I don't know what step, but I am going to move and I'm going to take a step and I'm going to take action because this is my life and it's not how my story ends. You have to get good and pissed off. And because you are going to get scared. You are going to have a moment when you're terrified and you don't know what you're doing and you don't think you belong there. And imposter syndrome is going to be over you like a gray cloud. And you have to tune into who you are and why you're doing this. And every time I try something new, every time I step into something where I go, oh God, I don't know about this, there's an actual voice in my head now that goes, really? Because there was that time on a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock when his wheelchair broke and you didn't know what you were going to do and you found a welder in town and you solved that problem, or the fact the day you learned that bike shops can sell wheelchair tires, or, any number of the challenges we faced that can I really say that business is just so scary now without kind of calling bullshit on myself? Because that's what it comes down to, is knowing our why. My husband had so many good reasons why he could have just rolled over, stayed at Gillette, collected disability if he wanted, but now he's working for the VA and he's helping other spinal cord injured veterans every single day see that there's life on the other side of their injury. They have to choose it. And he's watching some veterans not choose it too, that they're just staying in bed and they're not taking care of themselves. And he sees himself as somebody who can inspire action. And I see myself as his partner, as somebody who's just gotten in it with him and believes that too. And every single moment I'm scared, I just go back and I lean on that. And that's why maybe some of those cliche quotes and posts don't do a heck of a lot for me. But maybe my story is something that can do a heck of a lot for you, like it does for me. Or maybe you need to find your own story and your own why, and your own answer to what the point is and why you're going to do something different and why it's so essential that you make a change, that you make a movement, because you don't want to wait for a bus to plow into your life to decide. You don't want cancer to hit, a loved one to die, before you figure out that you got one day right now in front of you and what the hell are you going to do with it? And figuring out what you need to talk back to that fear. You need to get clear on your why, clear on your purpose, so that when you get stuck and when you get scared, you think about that. I was telling someone just the other day, oh God, I'm telling my story on Friday. They don't know I'm telling my story on Friday. I could change stories. I could tell something else. They wouldn't know. It's a free challenge. It's not like they're going to lose money if I just call the whole thing off. And obviously that's all the hater in my head, right? I was super worried that people would think I was playing on my husband's injury to build my business, or I was worried that people were going to think I was playing the victim card, or I don't know what I was thinking, but I know that I got nervous talking about it and sharing it. It's vulnerable to talk about it. But I also knew that if my story and my moments of fear and my moments of what's your excuse could inspire you to move, then I need to tell it, because it's my why. It's everything. It's why I'm here. It's why I have a business called Choose to Have It All, because I absolutely, with every bone in my body, believe we have a choice. I also know too that like, and this part is hard for me to say and to know out loud, but like, I've only been with you guys for 5 days. We can't really legitimately conquer fear in 5 days. It's taking a lifetime for you to build fear as a habit, right? For you to start thinking habitually that there's things that are scary. And the thing about breaking habits is it actually takes 21 days to build a habit. So we're several days short, but I promise you, if I made a 21-day challenge, you'd be sick of me by the end of it. I'd probably be sick of myself too. But we're just beginning. This work is just getting started. I hope I've given you the frame, the tools, and the strategies and perspective on where you're currently at in your own life, where you need to go next. And if you feel like you need more help and you want my eyeballs and my ears on your story, I'd really love it if you partnered with me. And I happily coach you. I've got a 2-week coaching package that I put together specifically for this challenge, where you can do a 1-hour call with me. We can run through what you're working on, what you think your obstacles are. I'll offer e-support through video and email for 2 weeks, and then we'll wrap up at the end of the 2 weeks with another phone call. I'm going to tell you all about that in the email, and you'll probably see posts about that, but you're also welcome to email me at heather@choosetohaveitall.com if you'd like to learn about coaching with me. Because, like, here's the thing is that we're starting and it's really up to you where you go next. I'm with you all the way. And if you do this challenge for the 7 days and then you worked with me for coaching for 2 weeks, you got your 21 days, and who knows where your life could be next. But what's really important for me to hear, what's really important that you hear from me today is that I believe with every bone in my body that whatever it is you want, you can have it and you can go after it. You have to choose it. You have to make some really hard choices and look at your values and look at what you're willing to compromise on. And you can't have everything, but you can have anything. And I know that if you look at your life, if you look at the things we've talked about this week, I know you can get to where you want to go. And if you don't believe in that, give me a call, send me an email, and let me help. There's nothing I'd like more to than just to help you be successful and set you up for better success and really have this week mean something, because it's meant a lot to me. I am psyched and thrilled to have shared it with you. I hope you've gotten a lot out of it. I hope you've enjoyed our time together and learned a lot. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, pop them in the comments, or certainly send me an email over at heather@choosetohaveitall.com. And if you've enjoyed this challenge and you're not yet in my group, get in my Facebook group. What are you waiting for? Find me over there too. The link's on the page. I think that's it, guys. I think we're wrapping up day 5 of our Fearless Challenge. I hope that when you look back from Monday to today, you find yourself fearing less. And if you don't, I guess you know who to call. Find me. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys, and have a great day. Bye-bye.